everybody, welcome along to our post-match show. Good to have you with us, Kate Abdo, Thierry Henry, Jamie Carragher, Micah Richards. Feels like a significant night in European football when you watch Liverpool lose 5-2 at Anfield against Real Madrid. We saw another game this evening as well, which saw Napoli win 2-0 against Frankfurt. Napoli just continuing to shine at the moment in European football. We're going to start by talking about that Liverpool game, because Jamie, your former club, we asked you before the game had started, on the back of those couple of positive results that we'd seen for Liverpool, did that now mean that they had turned the corner? You were cautious in your answer. Does that now feel like a resounding answer?
Yeah, it was nonsense, absolute nonsense that Liverpool were back in the last two games, and that's why I was cautious before the game. They played against an Everton team, one of the worst performances I've seen in a derby game from an Everton team who did nothing. I was at the Newcastle game as well. Newcastle with 10 men created chances, and if Newcastle had 11 men on the game, they'd have got back to 2-2. I'm convinced they would have, because Liverpool right now, and not right now, all season, as I said before, have been an absolute shambles defensively. Now, this team had a great defensive record last season, but we know the midfield doesn't have the energy anymore. The attacking players in the front three don't press like, or certainly don't have the cohesion that was there before with maybe a Firmino and a Mane, so they're new to it, Núñez and Gakpo. So this Liverpool defence now, who we've been told for years have got some of the best players in the world, can't cope. Because for years they've had a front six in front of them who probably worked harder and smarter than any other team in world football. And now that's gone, it's completely fell apart. And, I mean, I wouldn't say making excuses is the wrong word, but what I would say is, because as a Liverpool fan, we absolutely adore this manager and team, and they've done so much for the club in the last 4 or 5 years, it hates you to say anything negative because they give you so much. But Liverpool are 8th in the Premier League. They've just been battered 5-2 in the Champions League. I know it's Real Madrid, but these are the two teams who were in the final last year. It's not acceptable what we're watching this season. And we keep looking for reasons and excuses, but no, it's nowhere near good enough. And defensively, right now, and what makes me laugh, I'm not that horrible. Virgil van Dijk said I wouldn't get a nap back for about 2 months ago. I think I'd take his place at the moment, but no, some of the players there. I mean, Joe Gomez tonight. That was. I mean, listen, we've all had bad nights, real bad nights as players, and maybe I shouldn't kick someone in the dogs. I'm sure he'll feel terrible right now, but I think Liverpool would keep talking about midfield players Liverpool need, and that's right. I think Liverpool need defenders as well, because, as I said, when they get exposed, they can't defend.
So, Thierry, to what extent do you look at this game and think that Liverpool were that poor, or was it just that Real Madrid were outstanding tonight?
First and foremost, I sympathise with Jamie, because when you look at your team getting battered like that, you know, the way he speaks, he goes above and beyond because he's hurt, because he's a Liverpool fan. Now you need to go back to the truth. You conceded against Brentford too many goals for my liking. You conceded against Wolverhampton too many goals for my liking. Brighton, so let alone when you're going to play against Real Madrid. But I wanted to know where they were. And I saw a fragile team, more than fragile. I'll tell you why. You were 2-0 up. That's exactly the start that you would like to have against a Madrid team, against any team in Europe at Anfield. And they couldn't even keep that. Yes, Alisson Becker made a mistake, but they didn't bail him out. Thibaut Courtois makes a mistake. That's a big team. They bailed him out. And yes, with the help of some movements or not of the Liverpool players, but they are fragile. Something needs to change, and I don't think club needs to go. That's not what I'm saying. But some of the players don't have the level anymore to play for Liverpool, and it happens sometimes to the best. To me, happened to you, Jamie, happened to Micah. I think they need. It's the end of an era, and it's been for a little while. Like that this season. It's the end of an era, and it happens. And I'm not having a go at Liverpool, but you have to call. We say in France, a cat a cat. You see a cat, it's not a dog. You have to call it. They're 8th. They're not playing well. They're conceding a lot. We all love what they did recently, but you also have to say when some things are not going right, and it is not going right. And, you know, it's a tough one when I look at this and I see Liverpool conceding 5 at home and getting outplayed. When I see a guy like Luka Modric at his age getting that ball and just bursting through the midfield like they were not there, and passing the ball to Vinicius Junior to Benzema, and toying with the goalkeeper. I just think that is not good enough. That team gave us so much joy throughout the years, but right now they're not. So they need to reinvent themselves and make sure that they can keep their head up until the end of the season.
But if Liverpool play or are going to play the same way, you talk about it's an end of an era. If you go 2-0 up in a game, surely sometimes you have to change your principles in order to win the game. Whereas when I see Liverpool, they go 2-0 up, it gets to 2-2, they're still doing the same things. Like, the fullbacks, we all know how good they are going forward, and that's why we've lauded them as some of the best in world football. But they keep making mistakes. We've got Vinicius, one of the best players in the world, and he's got so much time and space.
I don't want to go back to what you said, Jamie, because I didn't follow what they said about you, but his team would have kept it tight. No, his team would have kept it tight for at least, you know what, we're 2-0 up, let's keep it tight. No, and not make it a game too open. But that's how they are, that's what made them. And they died like that tonight.
What I would say is I don't really agree with that. And what I'm saying is we can't sort of say how great this team have been for 5 years doing a certain thing and now saying they're wrong to do that thing. My point is that, and I've said this before, they're trying to play Jurgen Klopp football without players who can play Jurgen Klopp football. And that is maybe some players who've been brought in, but also some players who are there now who have, it's just come to the end. And I would never criticise those players because they've done their job for Liverpool over the last 4 or 5 years. And the one most people talk about is probably Jordan Henderson. He's the captain. You know, we all know there's reinforcements needed in midfield. And that lad gets a little bit of criticism from Liverpool fans. He shouldn't. He's done his job. He come in at 21. He's now 31, 32. He's won everything. He's lifted every trophy. The fact that he's still having to play week in, week out, means there's been mismanagement off the pitch in terms of players being brought in. But I don't think it's a criticism in terms of like Klopp's idea. But, as Thierry said, this team's come to an end. Jurgen Klopp built a team when he first came in, when that team was 7th or 8th in the Premier League. And what we saw for the next sort of 4 or 5 years was amazing. He needs to be allowed to do that again. Because I think that's a line in the sand. When you lose 5-2 at home in the Champions League, that is almost, that's like, no, this has to stop. We have to start
again. When you've got a team, Jamie, and you say the manager wants to play a certain way, but you've not got the players to play that certain way, surely you adapt to what you have instead of making the same mistake.
Well, there's been a little bit of adaptation, I would say. Liverpool are not, well, we saw it at times tonight, but the games I've watched, they're not that full-on press, energy everywhere. It was tonight, but you expect that. It's a European night. You've got to get after Real Madrid. You're 2-0 up. But listen, I know where you're coming from. The big worry for me was second half, you're attacking the Kop on a European night. There was nothing. Absolutely nothing. No energy, no goal-mouth scrambles, there was nothing there. It just looked broken to me. And, yeah.
To go back to what you're saying, Micah, you know, as a coach, sometimes you live and die with your principles. And as you said, I agree. They were so brilliant at what they were doing. It looks like, it's not me saying, when you watch the game, it seems like they can't do it. You know, they just can't do it anymore. I just, as a coach, you know, you're not going to change it or adapt to what you know the players are going to do. And I have to go back to my Barca time. My first year in Barcelona, it was the end of an era. We had better players, shall I say, sorry, in the squad. We won nothing. The year after, new coach. I'm not saying, understand what I'm saying. It was the end of an era. New players arrived. Then we went on to win a treble. You don't have to throw everything away, but it's gonna have to be some changes. It's just a normal process. Sorry, and I prefer the word evolution. It needs to evolve.
It's February though, so now from this point, what happens for the rest of the season? Because that result tonight has to be hugely affecting of team morale, team spirit.
Yeah, listen,
right?
it's good. I mean, you've got to go to the Bernabeu. You've got to go with something. You're Liverpool. You've got to try and get the first goal in the game. But forget that. And I go back to these 2 games where, obviously, Liverpool won the games. Now, I don't see anything different in those 2 games, except that Liverpool's goal scorers scored the chances that they got. They did that again tonight, which put them 2-0 up. But this Liverpool team will do what it's done all season, which is win a couple, lose a couple. Win a couple, lose a couple. And that's what's happened. They've won a couple of games. They've lost to Madrid. They might win the next one. They'll lose, they'll draw. Nothing's going to come around or change with this team. It is the end of an era. And Liverpool, at times before the World Cup, felt they need a midfield player, or they need 2 midfield players. The more you watch this Liverpool team, you're thinking, I think it's more 4 players maybe to go into the team, not just the squad right now.
I mean, you mentioned their position in the league previously, right, when we were talking. So if you look at that, the only route to Champions League football for next season was essentially to win the Champions League. Do you now look at them...
I mean, they're not a million miles away from top 4, and the teams who are in that position, it's not like you're trying to compete with a Man City or an Arsenal to get in the top 4. You're competing with other teams who drop points. So Tottenham are in the top 4 now. They lost last week 4-1 away at Leicester. So there's lots of other teams in that boat. So Liverpool, I think, will make a fist of that. I don't think they'll get it, but I think they'll make a decent fist of that. There's still a long way to go. But you've got to remember where this Liverpool team have been. They were in the Champions League final last season. And if we're being totally honest, they were massive favourites against Real Madrid. They lost it, OK? But to then see the gulf today at Anfield from sort of 6 months ago, and Thierry made a great point, Real Madrid have played more games than Liverpool this season. So we keep talking about the games and last season. Madrid have played more games this season. So you can't keep using that as an excuse or a reason.
We've got any Heineken for Jamie? Any Heineken for Jamie? Anyone? Listen, we're going to go to a break.